Part 1. The illusion of wealth. You've seen it before. Someone your age, same job title, same city, but somehow their life looks completely different. They're driving a $60,000 car, wearing a $5,000 watch, posting photos from Bali, Dubai, Paris, and you're sitting there thinking one quiet, uncomfortable thought. What am I doing wrong? It doesn't feel like jealousy. It feels like confusion, because on paper, you should be doing fine. You make $70,000 a year, maybe $90,000, maybe even $120,000. You pay your bills. You save a little. You're responsible. So why does it feel like you're falling behind? Here's the part no one tells you. A lot of people who look rich aren't rich at all. They are just better at looking rich. And the difference between those two, it's not small, it's everything. Part 2. The reality behind the image. I once worked with a client named Mike. He was 34, marketing manager, made about $95,000 a year. From the outside, Mike looked like he had it all together. Brand new BMW, $58,000. High-rise apartment, $2,800 a month. Weekend trips, designer clothes, rooftop bars. His Instagram? Perfect. But when we sat down and opened his numbers, everything changed. He had $3,200 in savings, a total of $27,000 in credit card debt, a car loan with 6.9% interest, and zero retirement investments. Zero. At 34. Mike wasn't rich. He was financed. Every part of his lifestyle was borrowed, paid for by future income he hadn't earned yet. And he's not an exception. He's the rule. Part 3. The system that fuels it. Because in today's world, looking wealthy is easier than ever. You don't need $50,000 to wear a $50,000 lifestyle. You just need access to credit. And credit is everywhere. Car loans, buy now, pay later. Credit cards with $20,000 limits. 0% interest offers that quietly turn into 24% later. It's all designed to make expensive things feel, but only in the short term. Part 4. The cost of borrowed lifestyle. Let's break this down with real numbers. Say you buy a $3,000 designer bag. You put it on a credit card at 22% interest. You don't pay it off right away. You carry the balance. If you only make minimum payments, that $3,000 bag doesn't cost $3,000 anymore. It costs closer to $4,500 over time. And that's just one purchase. Now stack that across a car, vacations, furniture, gadgets. The math gets brutal fast. Part 5. Fragile foundations. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most rich-looking lifestyles are built on fragile foundations. They look solid, but they are not. One job loss, one medical bill, one economic downturn, and everything collapses because there's no buffer, no real wealth underneath. Part 6. What real wealth looks like. Real wealth is quiet. It doesn't show up on Instagram. It doesn't get likes. It looks boring, but it's powerful, and most people miss it completely. Take Sarah. She's 41, public school teacher, makes about $78,000 a year. No luxury car, no designer brands, no flashy vacations. If you saw her on the street, you wouldn't think twice. But here's what her financial life actually looks like. She has $180,000 in her 401k, another $40,000 in a Roth IRA, and $25,000 emergency fund saved. She carries no credit card debt. She invests about $1,200 a month, consistently, quietly. No one claps for that. But here's what happens over time. Part 7. The power of compounding. If Sarah continues investing $1,200 in 20 years, she'll have around $630,000. In 25 years, over $900,000. In 30 years, about $1.4 million. That's not flashy, but it's real, and it's hers. Part 8. Two different paths. Now compare that to Mike. Same income range, same city, same starting point, but completely different outcome because Mike optimized for appearance. Sarah optimized for ownership. One looks rich, the other becomes rich. and those two paths rarely lead to the same place. Part 9. Social pressure trap. Here's where it gets tricky. The system around you constantly pushes you toward the wrong path. Everything is designed to make you spend. Ads, social media, even your friends, especially your friends. You go out to dinner. Everyone orders appetizers, cocktails, dessert. The bill comes, $120 each. You hesitate for half a second, but you don't say anything because no one wants to be that person, so you pay again and again and again. Part 10. Small spending. Big cost. $120 once a week doesn't feel like much, but let's do the math. That's $120 times 52 weeks, $6,240 a year. That's not small. Invested at 7% annually for 20 years. That's over $250,000. Gone for dinners you barely remember. Part 11. The emotional cost. And here's the part that really hits people. You don't feel poor when you're spending. You feel normal, maybe even successful. The pain comes later, when your bank account doesn't match your lifestyle, when you realize you've been working for years but haven't built anything solid. That's when it sinks in, quietly, slowly. Part 12. Income versus wealth. Because income alone doesn't create wealth. Let me say that again. Income alone doesn't create wealth. You can make $200,000 a year and still be broke if your expenses rise just as fast. If your lifestyle expands to match your paycheck, if every dollar is already promised elsewhere, that's called lifestyle inflation. In plain terms, it means you never actually get ahead. Part 13. The endless upgrade cycle. You get a raise. You upgrade your apartment. You get a bonus. You upgrade your car. You start earning more, but your financial position stays the same, or worse, because now you have more obligations, more pressure, more to lose. Part 14. The risk nobody sees. It's like walking a tightrope. The higher your lifestyle, the more dangerous the fall. Most people don't realize how high they've climbed until they slip. Part 15. The debt trap. Here's another quiet trap. Minimum payments. They look small, manageable. $85, $120, $200. Feels harmless, but it's not, because it stretches your debt across years, sometimes decades. And during that time, interest keeps eating relentlessly. A $10,000 credit card balance at 20% interest if you only make minimum payments. It can take over 20 years to pay off and cost you more than $15,000 in interest. That's $25,000 total for something that originally cost $10,000. That's not convenience. That's a trap. Part 16. Seeing through the illusions. And yet, from the outside, he still looks successful. That's the illusion. That's the game. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Part 17. The real question. So the question isn't, how do I look rich? The real question is, what am I building underneath? Because one day, the surface stops mattering and only the foundation remains. Part 18. What comes next? In the next part, we're going to go deeper. Not just what people are doing wrong, but why the system makes it so easy to fall into this pattern. Why smart, disciplined people still end up broke. And the one shift in thinking that changes everything. Because once you understand that, you stop chasing appearances and start building something real. Something that lasts. Part 1. The system behind your spending. You'd think this is just about discipline. Spend less, save more. Problem solved. Simple. But if it were that simple, most people wouldn't be stuck. Because the truth is, this isn't just about money. It's about how your brain has been trained to think about money. And that training starts early. You grow up seeing what success looks like. Nice clothes, nice car, nice house. No one shows you a retirement account. No one shows you an investment portfolio quietly growing in the background. So your brain builds a simple equation. Spending equals success. And it sticks. Part 2. The distorted reality. Then social media amplifies it relentlessly. You don't just see your neighbors anymore. You see the top 1% of lifestyles from all over the world every day, and your brain doesn't adjust for that. It treats it like normal. So now your baseline is distorted. A $2,000 vacation feels average. A $50 dinner feels normal. A $40,000 car feels reasonable, even if your income doesn't support it. That gap, that's where the damage begins. Part 3. Lifestyle stretch. Because your lifestyle starts to stretch beyond your reality. At first it's small. You upgrade your phone early. You eat out more often. You finance something you could have waited. It feels harmless. It feels deserved. But over time, that stretch turns into pressure, constant pressure. Part 4, Mike's reality. Let's go back to Mike for a second. Remember him? $95,000 salary. Looks successful, but here's what his monthly cash flow actually looked like. Take-home pay is about $6,200 per month. Now subtract expenses. Rent is $2,800. Car payment is $920. Insurance is $180. Dining and entertainment is $1,200. Credit card minimums are $600. Subscriptions, gym and miscellaneous are $400. Total is $6,100. That leaves him with $100 a month. Part 5. No margin. $100. That's his margin. That's his buffer. One unexpected expense, and he's in the red. That's not wealth. That's survival in disguise. Part 6. Pressure changes behavior. And here's what most people don't realize. That constant financial pressure changes your behavior. You start making worse decisions, short-term decisions, because your brain is trying to relieve stress right now. You tell yourself, I've had a long week. I deserve this. I'll figure it out later. It's only $200, but it's never just $200. Part 7, Avoidance loop. It's $200 stacked on everything else. And eventually, you stop tracking because looking at the numbers feels uncomfortable, so you avoid it, which makes things worse. Part 8, the hidden force. Now here's where things get really interesting. There's a hidden force at play, one that almost no one talks about. Time, specifically how you value time. Part 9, monthly thinking trap. Most people think in terms of monthly payments. $50 a month, $120 a month, $900 a month. That's how everything is marketed because it makes expensive things feel small. But your wealth doesn't operate monthly. It operates over decades. And that mismatch, that's where people lose badly. Part 10, car example. Let's take a simple example. You walk into a dealership. They show you a car. Only $499 a month. Sounds manageable. You can afford that, right? But here's the full picture. $499 times 60 months equals $29,940. Plus interest, you are over $32,000. Part 11, investment comparisons. Now take that same monthly amount and invest it instead. At 7% annual return, after 5 years, you have about $35,000. After 10 years, around $86,000. After 20 years, over $260,000. Same money, different direction, completely different outcome. Part 12, the trade-off, and here's the kicker. That car loses value over time. After 5 years, maybe $15,000. After 10 years, maybe $8,000. It's losing value while investments grow. That's the invisible trade you are making. Part 13, brain versus future, but you don't feel it in the moment because the cost is spread out, hidden, delayed, and your brain discounts future consequences. It prioritizes now, always. Part 14, biology and system. That's not a flaw, that's biology. Your brain is wired for immediate reward. And modern finance systems exploit that. Credit cards, buy now, pay later, flash sales, limited time offers. They all pull your future money into the present. Part 15, feeling stuck. And when your future is already spent, you feel stuck, even with high income. Part 16, the first shift. Now here's the first shift, the one that changes everything. This is what most people miss. And once you get it, you stop playing the wrong game. Part 17, what wealth really is. Wealth is not about how much you spend. It's about how much you keep and how long you keep it working for you. Let that sink in. Part 18, money as workers, because every dollar you don't spend, it becomes a worker, a tiny employee working for you, 24/7. If you spend it, that worker is gone. If you invest it, it brings back more workers, and they multiply, quietly, relentlessly. Part 19, compounding explained. This is what people mean when they say money makes money. In simple terms, money hires more money, and time makes it powerful. Part 20, time comparisons. Let's compare two people. Jake starts investing at $500 a month, stops at $35. Total invested is $60,000. Then he lets it grow. By 65, he has about $602,000. Now Alex starts at 35. He invests $500 monthly until 65. Total invested is $180,000. But he ends with about $566,000. Part 21, the power of time. Jake invested less, for less time, but got more. Why? Because his money had more time to grow. Time did the work. Part 22, the real cost. While chasing appearances, people miss this. They are spending time. Future time, that $3,000 bag, it could have become over $22,000. That's the real cost, the opportunity. Part 23, new way of thinking. Once you see money this way, you stop asking if you can afford it. You start asking what it costs your future. That's a better question. Part 24, why it's still hard, but even people who understand this still struggle. Because knowledge alone doesn't change behavior. Environment does. Habits do. Systems do. Part 25, what comes next? And that's what we build next. Not theory, not motivation, but a practical system for your money. So you stop leaking money and start directing it to what matters. Because when you do that, you don't just feel richer, you become richer, quietly, consistently, for real. Part 1, the moment it clicks, at some point the realization hits. Not all at once, not dramatically, just a quiet thought. I make good money, so why do I still feel stuck? That's where change begins. Not with motivation, not with a new app, with honesty. Part 2, facing the numbers. I want to show you something simple, not complicated, not theoretical, just real numbers. Meet Daniel. He's 29, software developer, makes $105,000 a year. Smart, disciplined, hardworking. He thought he was doing everything right. But when we laid out his actual cash flow, it told a different story. Part 3, where the money goes. Take-home pay about $6,800 per month. Now watch where it goes. Rent, $2,400. Car payment, $650. Student loans, $500. Food, mostly eating out, $1,100. Travel fund, $400. Subscriptions and shopping, $700. Miscellaneous. Total $6,300. Leftover, $450. Part 4, the hidden potential. Now $450 sounds okay, until you zoom out. $450 per month equals $5,400. If Daniel invests that at 7% for 30 years, that becomes about $510,000. $500,000, not bad. Part 5, the uncomfortable truth. But here's the uncomfortable part. Daniel could be investing way more, without earning a single extra dollar. Part 6, finding the leak. Look at his spending again. $1,100 per month on food. That's $13,200 a year. Mostly convenience, mostly habit. If he cuts that to $700, he frees up $400 per month. Now his investment jumps to $850 per month. Part 7. Small change, big outcome. At $850 per month, 7% return, 30 years, he ends up with about $960,000. Almost a million. Same person, same salary, just different decisions. Part 8. The real game, that's the game, not earning more, using better. And most people never play it because they're focused on the wrong lever. Income feels powerful, but behavior, that's what compounds. Part 9. Building a system. So let's build something practical. A system, not a budget you'll abandon in 2 weeks. A structure that runs in the background, quietly, consistently. Part 10. The 3 buckets. Think of your money in 3 buckets, not complicated categories, just 3. Essentials, future, freedom, that's it. Part 11. Essentials. Essentials are what keep your life running. Rent, groceries, insurance, basic transportation. For most people, this should stay under 50 to 60%. If it's higher, that's your first signal. Something needs adjusting. Part 12. Future. Future is where wealth is built. Investments, retirement accounts, emergency fund. This isn't optional. This is your foundation. Aim for at least 20%. More if you can, because this is the only bucket that grows. Part 13. Freedom. Freedom is everything else. Eating out, travel, shopping, experiences. This is where life happens, and it matters, but it has a limit, usually 20 to 30%. Because beyond that, it starts stealing from your future. Part 14. Automation. Now here's the key. You don't decide this every day. You decide it once, then you automate it. The moment your paycheck hits, money moves. Automatically. $1,200 to investments, $500 to savings. The rest stays for spending. No thinking, no debating, no guilt, because the important part is already handled. Part 15. Removing willpower. This does something powerful. It removes willpower from the equation. Because willpower is unreliable, it fades, especially after a long day. Part 16. Designing around reality. At 9 p.m., you don't want to think about budgets. You want comfort, convenience, reward. That's normal. So don't fight it. Design around it. Part 17. System freedom. When your system is right, you can spend freely within your limits. No stress, no second guessing, because you know your future is already funded. Part 18. Monthly check-in. Now let's go deeper, because there's another layer most people miss. Tracking, not obsessively, not daily, but regularly. Once a month. That's enough. Sit down. Look at your numbers. No judgment, just awareness. Part 19. Learning from spending. Ask simple questions. Where did my money go? What actually made me happier? What didn't? You'll start noticing patterns. Clear patterns. That $300 impulse purchase? Forgotten. That $200 dinner with close friends? Worth it. That's how you refine. Not by cutting everything. By keeping what matters and removing what doesn't. Part 20. Social pressure. Now let's talk about something uncomfortable. Social pressure. Because this one quietly destroys progress. Your friends upgrade. You feel it. Your coworkers spend. You see it. And without realizing, you adjust. Part 21. Saying no. You say yes to things you don't even want that much. Because saying no feels awkward, embarrassing, restrictive. Part 22. The truth. But here's the truth. Most people around you are also stretched. They just don't show it. You're not behind. You're just more aware. And awareness is power. Part 23. The pause. So you start doing something small. You pause before spending, just for a second. And you ask one question. Is this worth trading my future for? Sometimes the answer is yes, and that's okay. But often, it's no. Part 24. Breaking the pattern. That pause, it changes everything, because it breaks the pattern. Part 25. The 10x rule. Now let me show you something even more powerful. A simple rule, one that filters almost every decision. Before you buy something non-essential, ask yourself, would I still want this if it cost 10 times more? That $200 jacket, would you buy it at $2,000? If not, maybe you don't actually value it that much. Part 26. Intentional spending. This isn't about being extreme. It's about clarity. Because most spending is impulsive, not intentional. And when your spending becomes intentional, your money starts aligning with your life, not against it. Part 27. Small changes compound. Now here's where it all comes together. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to cut everything. You just need to be slightly better, consistently, because small changes compound just like money does. Part 28. The outcome, an extra $200 invested per month, a slightly cheaper apartment, cooking a few more meals at home, individually, small, together, life-changing. Part 29. Real progress, and after a while, something shifts. You stop feeling behind. You stop comparing, because you see your own progress, real progress. Part 30. A different life. You wake up differently. Less stress. More control. Because your money is no longer random. It's directed, purposeful, working for you. Part 31. Final realization. And that's when you realize you're not trying to look rich anymore. You're becoming something else. Something quieter. Something stronger. Something that doesn't need validation. Because it's real. Part 32, the final shift. But there's one final shift, the one that separates people who build wealth from those who only manage money. And once you see it, you'll never think about money the same way again. Part 1, the quiet shift. There's a moment that doesn't look dramatic from the outside. No big purchase, no big decision, just a quiet realization. I don't need to prove anything anymore. That's the shift, and it changes everything. Part 2, what you were really buying. Because up until this point, money has been tied to something deeper. Validation, status, comparison, approval. You weren't just spending money, you were buying signals. Part 3, the illusions, signals that say, I'm doing well, I belong, I've made it. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The people you're trying to impress aren't paying your bills. Part 4, the endless game, and most of them, they're playing the same game, trying to impress someone else. It never ends. Part 5, stepping out, so you step out, quietly, not by force, but by understanding. Part 6, seeing clearly, because once you've seen the math, once you've seen how money actually grows, spending for appearance starts to feel different, heavier, less exciting. Part 7, better questions. You start asking better questions. Not, can I afford this? But, does this move my life forward? Short question, big difference. Part 8, the second realization. And this leads to the second realization, the one most people never reach. Money is not for spending. Money is for buying time. Let that land. Part 9, what money really buys, because every dollar you keep and invest does something simple. It buys you options. Options to say no. Options to walk away. Options to choose. Part 10, Sarah's story. Let's go back to Sarah. Remember her? Teacher, $78,000 a year. Quiet, consistent. By her mid-40s, she had built nearly $300,000 across her accounts. Nothing flashy, but something powerful. Part 11, the turning point. One day, her school changed leadership. New administration, more pressure, less flexibility. Before, she would have stayed. She would have tolerated it because she needed the paycheck. Part 12, having options, but now she had options. She had time, so she made a different decision. She stepped back, reduced her hours, took a lower stress role, and her life improved immediately. Part 13, what money is really for. That's what money can do. Not impress people, free you. Part 14, the invisible benefit. And that's the part no one shows on Instagram, because you can't photograph freedom. You feel it. Part 15. Mike's situation. Now compare that to Mike. Same age range, same income level, but no buffer, no investments, no margin. Part 16. When things go wrong. When his company went through layoffs, he didn't have options. He had obligations, rent, car payment, debt. Part 17. No choice. So he took the first job he could find. Lower pay, more stress, because he had no choice. Part 18. The hidden cost. That's the hidden cost. Not just money lost, but choices lost. Part 19. What wealth really means, and this is where everything becomes clear. Wealth is not about lifestyle. It's about control. Control over your time. Control over your decisions. Control over your life. Short sentence. Big meaning. Part 20. A different way to live, because once you have control, you stop reacting and start choosing. Part 21. Stepping out of the race. You don't panic spend. You don't chase trends. You don't feel behind, because you're not in the race anymore. Part 22. From the outside, you've stepped out, and from the outside, it might look like you're doing less. Driving a simpler car, living in a modest place, skipping certain things. Part 23. What's really happening, but underneath, everything is stronger. Your finances are stable. Your stress is lower. Your future is clearer. Part 24. Compounding strength, and over time, that quiet strength compounds. Part 25. The irony. Now here's the irony. After years of not trying to look rich, you often end up in a position where you actually are. Part 26. How it happens, not because you chased it, but because you built it, step by step, decision by decision. Part 27. No need to show it, and by then, you don't feel the need to show it, because the feeling of security is enough. Part 28. The 5 ideas. So let's bring this together. Not as theory, but as something you can carry with you every day. There are 5 ideas that matter here. Simple, but powerful. Part 29. Idea 1. First, looking rich and being rich are not the same. One is visible, the other is real, and they require opposite behaviors. Part 30. Idea 2. Second, your biggest financial decisions are small, repeated habits, not one-time events, daily spending, monthly patterns. That's where wealth is built or lost. Part 31. Idea 3. Third, time is your most valuable asset, not money. Money can be earned back, time cannot. So every dollar you spend is also time you're giving up. Part 32. Idea 4. Fourth, systems beat willpower. Always automate your savings, structure your money, make good decisions the default. Part 33. Idea 5. Fifth, money is for freedom, not for showing off, not for validation, for freedom. Short sentence, big shift. Part 34. The real goal, and if you remember nothing else, remember this. The goal is not to look like you have a good life. The goal is to actually have one. Part 35. What that life looks like. A life with less stress, more choice, more control. Part 36. Built quietly, and that kind of life is built quietly, over time, away from the spotlight. Part 37. Final thought. You don't need to prove anything. You just need to build something real. And once you do, you'll never want to trade it for appearances again, because you'll know the truth, and you'll feel the difference every single day.